Camp report, Packers to talk about, Chris, and one of the things today that we saw was a lot of effective use of the wide receivers. That's a group that it's going to be pretty tough for the coaches to determine who stays on the team. What have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the good problems to have here right now. A lot of big plays made by some of the young receivers today. D'Angelo Yancey and Malachi Dupree, both of the rookie draft picks. And Michael Clark, the 6'6" basketball player turned football player, a free agent guy, made a huge one-handed catch. I think what it does is it presents an opportunity for all these young guys to get some reps and put some pressure on the guys that you know are going to be here, the Randall Cobbs, the Devontae Adams, the Jordy Nelson. So it makes everybody better. The competition is good. The reality is some good receivers are going to get sent home. They're going to get picked up by other teams. They're going to be put on the practice squad because right now there's just too many guys at that position. You got all 7 players from last year's active roster coming back and throw on another handful of guys on top of that. It's going to be tough.
And it's going to be interesting to see because you're right. There are going to be some of the guys on this receiving core that other teams come to pick up. And it's going to be a task for the front office here to figure out how do we maybe stash 1 or 2 of those guys on the practice squad, because some of them are going to get taken, but we'd like to keep some of that talent around, I would imagine. Another thing from today that I thought was interesting, doesn't really have to do with the Packers game plan per se, but Coach Greg Gard of the Wisconsin Badgers was on hand. Just kind of neat to see him milling around.
It was, and I think Wisconsin to me feels like one of those states where it's all very connected. Whether you're a Badger, a Packer, a Brewer, a Buck, everybody seems to be intermingled in rooting for each other. I mean, you see Aaron Rodgers at Bucks games all the time. So I think that's just part of that state camaraderie. And I don't think he necessarily had any reason to be here, except he just wanted to check out camp. He hung out, he talked to Coach McCarthy for a while. And, just a cool thing for some of the guys to get to meet somebody else important in the sports community here.
Well, and Coach Gard has been a Packer fan forever. He's a lifelong Wisconsinite. But one of the things that I think is interesting, and you've seen this with guys in other sports, coaches that it's not that they're going to learn anything about how you're running your pass offense. Sure. That's not going to really help the Badgers this year in basketball, but the way that practices are run or the professionalism that's brought to it, how coach manages time or talks with players, those are things that you can sometimes see coaches learn from other coaches. Belichick has hung around with a lot of college guys in his time. Greg Popovich is somebody that a lot of other coaches seek out to go be around just to sort of get that thing that they have and understand how they work. Now, a sad part for today, and we don't know that it's going to be too serious. It's a couple things that were overheard during practice, according to some reporters claiming that it's more cautionary, but cornerback Kevin King, the team's first draft pick this year, he was held out due to some shoulder soreness.
Sure, so the bad news, King was out. And the worst news, now 3 of the 2017 draft picks for the Packers are sidelined with injury. That's not what you want to see, because this is the time of year that those guys develop. This is the time of year you got to get them reps on a daily basis. The good news, King was still here. He wasn't missing. He wasn't, rehabbing somewhere. He was on the sideline. He participated in stretching and all the non-contact stuff before practice actually started. And then during actual practice, he was still on the sideline. He was still watching. He was still taking things in. And what that leads me to believe is that it's not anything too serious. We don't know for sure. By the time we talked to Coach McCarthy this morning, nobody knew about the injury. We didn't find out until after the fact. So, but the fact that he was out there, I think, is a pretty good sign that hopefully it's short-lived.
Well, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more news on that tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely by Thursday, talking to some of the guys on the staff. Tomorrow we'll also get a chance to hear from some of the position coaches, which ought to be interesting to see what those guys are seeing in their individual stuff. Right now we've got sort of a macro view of what's going on at camp. Maybe tomorrow we get more of a micro view on each specific position battle. But that's where we're at right now. Still early in camp, haven't quite made it to family night, haven't made it yet to the first preseason game. So that's where we're at. We're going to keep covering it. We're going to keep having more news,
Chris.
Let's
keep doing this.
And for now, let's just sign off. We'll have coverage tonight on all the shows. Make sure you tune in for that. For now, with Chris Barriere, I'm Charlie Sokatis, keeping you connected for NBC 26.